All right, welcome to our monthly Saturday mental health support group. We meet every Saturday. I'm sorry, one Saturday a month, excuse me, to continue to offer mental health support to the community. So we want to thank you guys for joining us um, as we have our first session of the new year. Our disclaimer for today: this group session is intended to provide information and support related to mental health wellness. Any information or advice offered during this session is not considered a professional or clinical diagnosis. If you need professional or clinical support, please be sure to reach out to your primary care provider or other mental health resources in your area. Our ground rules are to be respectful of each other, try not to interrupt, and remember that everyone's opinion matters. So, in alignment with today's topic regarding setting goals for the new year, my icebreaker question is within 1 to 2 words, I would say 1 to 3 words. Doesn't have to be anything extra long, but what would you like what word would you like to have associated with your legacy? So at the end of your journey, what word you could, it may be 2 to 3, but would you like to be associated with your legacy? So I'll go first to kind of give you guys an example. Mine would be kindness and support, or what I want people to be able to look back over my life and say that that was something that I always promoted.
Mine would be peace and forgiveness.
Nice.
Mine would be support and mental freedom.
Hmm. Good one.
Mine, I would say either love or loving.
Love it. Anyone else?
Mine would be fearless and loving.
I would say inspired and motivated.
Cool.
Very good.
Okay. Anyone else
I'm
want to
gonna
share?
put me down for generous and uh, 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 compassionate.
Nice. Okay. Those are all very wonderful attributes to be associated with any of our journeys. Um, so I really enjoyed that icebreaker. It was short, but I think it was sweet and to the point. And it kind of, like I said, it relates to what we're going to talk about today. We have our guest speaker here today, Miss Brandi Perusomala. She's going to speak to us about setting goals, not just any goals, but smart goals. And she's going to go into detail about what that means and how that helps us to build toward those legacies that we just talked about. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Miss Brandi Perusomala.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm glad I can be here today to join you all. I just want to say a little bit about myself, just so you know. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I have been working in the field for over 20 years now. I work with children, adults, families, couples, and I have worked in a variety of settings. I've worked in hospitals, clinics, um, schools, and now currently working in private practice. So just wanted to give a little background about myself. So yeah, so Happy New Year to everyone. And so with the new year often comes that common phrase, New Year's resolutions. So we thought that it would be timely to speak about SMART goals today, because as we may all have experience with, those New Year's resolutions aren't necessarily as successful as we, yes, New Year to me, it's a challenge, very challenging to make those New Year's resolutions successful. So we thought that talking about SMART goals which is an acronym, which I'll share my screen with you all later, that you could see that the word SMART in the SMART goals, there's a for each letter, there is a word to describe it and to help us to make our goals, to help us to identify our goals and help us to make them specific and achievable, and so that we experience more success with our goal setting. Okay, so I think I'll just, before I also have a little icebreaker for you guys before I share my screen. And if you can put it, you can, I guess you could just unmute and shout out what you think your answer is. It's a multiple choice, and you can either shout out or you could put it in the chat. So here's my icebreaker. At what stage in the goal making process do most goals fail? At what stage or at what point during the goal making process do most goals fail? Is it A, when we're actually setting the goal? Is it B, when we're taking steps or those first steps or first actions to meet that goal? Is it C, maintaining that goal, the maintenance stage? Or is it D, all of the above? So I'll say that very quickly one more time. A, setting the goal. B, taking steps or actions towards those goals. C, maintaining the goals. Or D, all of the above.
I think it's A.
I'm gonna go
A.
with B.
I think it's C. We got all the answers so far, almost.
We got all the answers.
I think it's starting the goal, and someone in text, Yanni said, actually starting the goal once you set the goal, the first actions.
And Stacy said all of the above.
All of the above. Okay, well, ding, 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 ding.
I was just like, Stacy.
We need all of the above. Yeah,
Thank
all
you,
of
thank
the
you.
above.
It's taking me a minute. It's taking me a minute to think about it, so I haven't responded because I was trying to figure out which one it was. But now that someone else has said it, I say it too. All of the above.
All of the above. Yes. And that is why, like I said, I'm about to share my screen in just 1 minute, why SMART goals are so important, because they actually address each of these areas: setting the goal, taking your first steps or actions towards that goal, and also helping you to maintain it. And I'll share my screen now so that you could see what I'm talking about. 1 moment. Okay. Does everybody see that?
Yep.
Do you
Yes.
only see one thing? I just want to make sure. Do you only see one chart?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So this is SMART goals. And like I said, it's an acronym. So the S is for specific, the M is for measurable, the A is for achievable, the R is for realistic or relevant. Sometimes you may hear people use the word relevant for the R, and T, time bound. I think we forgot to mention at the beginning, you might want a piece of paper for this.
Oh, I did forget. Sorry about that.
We might want a piece of paper for this session today, because one, to remember what each letter stands for, you can write that down, but also we were going to ask you at the end, hopefully if we have time, to do a little have a little time to practice. So you might want to write your goals down and then try practicing making them specific, measurable, achievable, realistic or relevant, and time bound. So I just want to pause just for a second. If anybody has anything to say before I start, I don't want to just keep speaking on autopilot. Anybody have any questions or want to say any comments before I start talking a little bit more about each letter?
It's just so crazy. My manager, she's used these acronyms to help me kind of tweak my resume for another role I'm applying for. So this is right on time. Yeah.
This is perfect. Yes. And actually that helps me mention that when you're thinking about SMART goals, there's kind of categories, and professional goals is one of the category. Like you're saying that you're using this at work. There's professional goals, there's personal goals, There's family goals. You could use
Mhm.
this for making family goals. Um,
Economic goals.
economic, yeah, I was gonna say economic, financial goals, yes.
Mhm.
And that could be kind of your own personal, or if you're in a business, if you're running a business and you want to make certain financial goals or economic goals, things like that. So yes, and there's different categories where you can apply these goals. So okay, so I'm glad this is a timely topic. So one, it will start with the S, specific. um you want your goal not to be too broad, where that you never you it just kind of floats out there. And sometimes if our goal is not specific, it just floats out there. Like, and I'll use a common one. um you know I want to lose weight, right? I want to lose weight. Or I wish I had more money. Those are they're very broad, right? Even to say I want to save money, I want to start saving money, it's still very broad. So when you get to the S, you want to make those goals more specific, right? So if your overall goal or idea is to lose weight, how can you make that more specific? um and an example would be something like, I want to start um exercising more, or I want to start cooking my own meals, something like that. That's a more specific goal that ties in. And use the example of the financial goal, wanting to save. How can you make that more specific? Yes, I want to save, or I want to make more money. How can we make it more specific? How about, I want to save this amount of money? That's more specific. I want to save $1,000 this year. I see what's in my savings, and I want to increase that, by 1,000, and and you can put a time frame, and that will go on to the other letters for that. But if you could just see that that is more specific, saving money, more general. I want to save this amount of money, more specific. Um, Clear?
Mhm.
Okay. So then how to make it measurable? Measurable it could mean percentage wise, like you could put a percentage. I want to save this amount, this percent of my income, or of my check. I want to save this percent. Or it can be measurable by a number of times. Like I said, the goal of losing weight. I want to begin an exercise routine. And you could be specific. How many days? How many days a week do I want to start exercising? I want to exercise at least 3 times a week. So there's measurable. You can measure it. Did I exercise 3 times this week? Or did I save the $2,000? The amount you know that we that we that we put. That's how you make the goal measurable. You assign a number to it, a percentage. Um, or yes, and that can help us to make the goal more measurable. That's one part of identifying measure. Another part of what measurable can mean is making the goal, um having some actions attached to the goal. So for example, and what I'm describing is, it's not always just a number, but there could be some actions like um, cooking my own meals, and you can measure that. Did I cook my own meals, this week? Or how many times did I cook my own meals this week? So you can measure it in numbers, or you can measure it by specific actions. When I think about measurable, I think about my goal, my specific goal, and what actions can I take to meet that goal. So like I said, if my goal is to lose weight, what actions can I take to meet that goal? I make it specific by saying, I want to lose weight by becoming more active. And then I make it measurable by saying, I want to be active at least 3 times a week. So that's an example of specific and measurable. I'll
Brandi,
pause.
can I add something, please?
Mhm, mhm.
And I just wanted to add in regard to the measurable piece, it also, I think, helpful because it gives us the data that we are able to look back on and track our progress, right? So, for example, if we say, I'm going to walk 3 times a week for a month, right? So that's 4 weeks. And then if we look back on, wherever we wrote that down, our journal or our calendar, we're able to say, oh, okay, well, I met that goal, 85% of the time, or out of the 4 weeks, I met my goal 3 times, 3 times. So I was able to exercise 3 times a week for 3 weeks, but 1 week, I only was able to exercise 1 time. So being able to have that data allows us to look back and monitor our progress and track our progress and look for areas of improvement as well, right? So another way that this will be helpful is when Brandi had said, we can use it in different areas of our life, finances. So financially, if we have the data, we can kind of see where the money's going in regards to the goals that we've set. If we're talking about work, we can kind of see how many tasks have been completed, what is outstanding, what do we need to focus on to make sure we can continue to meet those measures. So the data that we get from the goals being specific and measurable is also important.
Yes, thank you, Nikki.
You're welcome.
Very true. Okay, so we're gonna go on to the A for achievable. Okay, so achievable, when you think of a goal, if you see here the A and the R, I'm just gonna for achievable and realistic, there is some overlap there. And I think that's why sometimes when, like I said, when you see this, you might see the word relevant instead of realistic. Some people use that term because achievable does kind of relate to realistic, right? Achievable means, is it something that I could actually achieve? And or is it realistic that I will achieve this goal, or that I can achieve this goal? And so when you're thinking about that, you're thinking, for example, do I have the skills or the means to actually achieve this goal? And that's one example. I think of an example for that. When I say like the means, let's say I wanna lose weight. I make it measurable. I want to exercise, 3 times a week. But let's just say, is it achievable? Let's just say, I want to do it 3 times a week, but um, I work 2 jobs. I work a morning shift and a day and an evening shift. Um, how likely is it that I will be able to achieve that? Where can I get that time? And maybe if I don't sleep, I can achieve it, but that's where that overlap is it really realistic? So you may want to, that's how when you're making your SMART goal, you want to consider, do I have either the skills or the means to meet that goal? I'll give you another example about the skill. Let's just say I want to learn a professional development goal. I want to uh, learn a new language so that I can reach more people. I can expand my field. Maybe I want to learn Spanish so I can serve more Spanish speaking clients, something like that. So again, is it achievable? Of course, we can achieve that goal. We can all learn a new language. But when I'm making my goal, how am I making my goal in a way that I could actually achieve it? Meaning, do I have the skills? Have I ever studied Spanish before? Do I have any background in Spanish at all? Am I starting from square one, or am I refreshing my skills? That can determine how likely I am to achieve that goal, or it would help me to make my goal more specific or more measurable, right? Like instead of, I want to speak a new language fluently in a month, it might be, I want to learn a new language. I want to develop skills within a year, right? Again, you see how these SMART goals are overlapping. They're specific, they're measurable, but I'm making my measure based on how likely I am to achieve it. And how likely I am to achieve it is I have to think about my skills, the means that I have, right? The time that I have. Maybe like I said, I work 2 jobs. I have children. How much time do I really have to study this new language, right? So maybe I better give myself a little bit more time, right? Versus someone who maybe didn't work 2 jobs and had other circumstances. So that's where the achievable comes in, where you want to make sure not, yes, you can achieve it, but is it realistic? And again, there's the overlap. So I'll go to the R about the realistic. And I think I gave that example with the language, right? If I were really wanting to learn a new language, it's not realistic that I could be completely fluent in a language in a month. But if I still have that overall goal that I want to learn a new language, it would definitely be achievable and realistic to make my specific goal that I will download that I will learn the new language, right? I will learn this new language by making it measurable, by spending 10 minutes on my app, my language app that I downloaded on my phone. How many times? Maybe I'll say on the weekends, maybe on Saturday and Sunday. So twice a week, I spend 10 to 15 minutes utilizing my language app, right? To slowly and realistically, based on my schedule, start to develop the skills for this language. So again, I'm just going to point out that overlap with the achievable and the realistic. Yes, I could learn to speak a new language, but I really want to make sure it's realistic. If the goal is realistic and it's something that I have the skill and means to do in a reasonable or measurable manner. I'll pause in case anybody wants to share anything or ask a question. I'll continue. So while I continue, I want to say something while sometimes you may see relevant instead of realistic, because like I said, realistic kind of goes in with achievable. So when we ask, is the goal relevant? We really want to think about, why am I setting this goal? Why? Is it relevant? Because we have to know why we're setting this goal. And we have to make sure it's relevant to our life or our values, our overall values. And we're making this goal not for someone else, but like I said, because we know why we're setting this goal and why it's relevant to us. And I'll give you another example to that. Why is my goal that I want to lose weight? Why? Is it because it's just, all over the social media or all over, the media in general of, I want to look a certain way or form to a certain standard? Or is it because of somebody else tells me I should look a certain way, or, someone else tells me you should lose weight? Is it that? Or does it tie into my own personal goals? Is it relevant to me that I want to have a healthy lifestyle? I want to have an active lifestyle. I want to, I don't know, like I said, why is it relevant? Why is it relevant? Because if you're only doing something because either it seems like everybody else is doing it, or someone told you have to do it, again, SMART goals are made to help us to be successful towards our goal. So it really has to be something relevant and personal to you and aligned with your own personal, wants or values to make it most successful.
And I wanted to piggyback off that really quick, Brandi. is also a point important when you're talking about relevance.
Mhm.
Um, is this something that this is the right time for?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
it could be a goal that's relevant maybe, once I have children,
Mhm.
or, once I have a house, or once I move out of state, because I'm planning to move out of state within the next 5 years. So that's
Mhm.
kind of whatever the case might be for you as an individual, that can also be factored in. Is this a goal that I need to set right now? Is it relevant to my short-term plans? Or
Mhm.
my long-term plans. Not
Mhm.
to say that it can't be a goal at a different point, but when we're focusing on goals, we want to try to focus on different areas. Like, so we want our long-term plan, and our short-term plan, and then like our daily functioning plans, right? So if your ultimate goal or your end game is not for 10 years from now,
Mhm.
it's going to be more worthwhile for you to focus on action steps that are building you toward that 10-year plan, not jump all the way to the 10-year plan goals, because at this point you're not going to be able to use them, and you could be using that time to build up those action steps, kind of like, if we have an outline, if we have the heading and the objectives, we start working on the objectives, and then that moves us toward the heading, if that's an easier way for us to understand it. So when you're determining what goals am I going to focus on right now, part of it
Mhm.
could be, is this goal relevant right now? Does it match our needs right now? And is this the right time for that goal? Or is that a goal I should focus on later? That's part of the relevance as well.
Yes. Excellent. And you see what Nikki just shared, um, shows just how important it is, that relevant piece. And I think that's why, like I said, sometimes you will find that the R is focusing on relevant, because in Achievable you can deal with that also includes the realistic part. And so it is so important what Nikki said about finding out, is this relevant, even like she said, for our time. Is the timing relevant? Like it's timing, the means, the need, the why, all of that is what that R for relevant, is about. Okay. And then lastly, I'll just talk about the T is time bound. So what, is found, is that if we have a goal, if we're making a goal, we want to have some type of end goal, right? Some type of ending, some type of time frame where we would like to reach that goal. And again, I believe Nikki said that earlier, so that we can look back, either while we're on our journey, we can look back and we can measure it, what we're doing, also so that it doesn't just float out there, yeah, I want to lose weight, and it's just a goal that's out there for years, right? And again, but if I say I want to lose 5 pounds this year, right, very specific, I want to lose 5 pounds by next January, there's a limit. And when I get to next January 2025, I can measure it. I can say, did I meet this goal? Did I lose 5 pounds by the end of the year? And again, also why this is so important to have a time, it it relates to all the other letters. Think about the language one. If I set my time bound goal for 1 month to be fluent in a foreign language that I've never spoken or studied, then it causes me, if I say, well, I have to do it by next month. So because, maybe I'm traveling, so I got to do it by next month. So I'm putting that down as my SMART goal. 1 month, be fluent in a foreign language that I've never studied before. Then it causes me to go back and look, is it realistic? Is it achievable? How measurable? How am I going to actually make this happen? How am I going to learn uh, um, a language in a month? What actions could I take to even try to do that? Would studying 10 minutes, on Saturday and Sunday really help me to meet that goal, that time bound goal in a month? Not realistically, right? So then I would have to I'd have to work at my SMART goal to make it, like I said, either more specific or more achievable, right? And maybe even move my time. Maybe in a month, I have a different, if I really needed to do something in a month, then my time goal, my specific goal wouldn't be fluent in a foreign language in a month. Maybe my specific goal would be um, uh, more knowledgeable, more knowledgeable, or able to do, basic greetings and, salutations, those kinds of things. Sometimes it's just "Cómo estás? Me llamo Brandi." Maybe I have more specific goal that is actually measurable, that I can only spend 10 minutes a week, and actually achieve that goal in a month's time, more realistically, because I'm going in a month. So, but what would be more specific and more reasonable, um, in order to meet that time bound goal? So again, that shows how all of these all the letters in this acronym, they work together, and they cause you, when you're working it out, they cause you to kind of go back and say, oh, maybe that wasn't specific enough, or maybe that, maybe, maybe I need to change something to make it more achievable. Maybe I need to extend my time bound, my end goal, or things like that, to make it work. And that's what the SMART goals um, are about. I'll pause, and because we're going to pivot a little bit, I do have one more little multiple choice question for you guys. But before I do, again, I'll pause and see if anybody has any questions or wants to share anything.
I just wanted to say that I appreciate the connectedness of the different areas, because what you said is true for me. It does go give you, I guess, the pause, I guess, because like, especially this time of year, the new year, we're just like, I'm going to do this, and this is going to be great, and today's my year. And this helps me to pause and go, okay, now is that realistic, and or what could that look like in order for it to be realistic, and it is that specific enough? So it gives me pause, because I have to consider each variable in my goal setting, and to me, the benefit of that, of taking that time to consider each area, is that it reduces the chances that I'm going to you know um overwhelm myself, for one, right? Get discouraged, because I didn't think about the fact of whether or not it was realistic or achievable, or I set my time frame too short or too long, whatever the case may be. So it helps me from getting distracted and overwhelmed, and losing my motivation, basically. So I appreciate the way that they're connected, because it forces us to kind of pay attention to each area as we're building the goals.
I think time bound helps a person to hold themselves accountable to getting to the goal. So if I say I want to do XYZ by March, I'm striving to get it done by March. And it's okay if I have to adjust it when I get to March and say, yeah, it's going to take me 2 more months. But I think time bound makes it better to help you to get to the goal, in a specific amount of time.
Yes, yes.
And I like the way that Lynn just acknowledged the flexibility point, because sometimes we cannot be flexible with ourselves, and then that causes us to feel like we didn't meet our goal or we failed our goal. But if we're, if we're taking care of the other areas of being specific and it's realistic and measurable, it's okay to, like, once we look at our data or look back at what we've been measuring, to see, is it working? Look for where we might be able to make some adjustments, excuse me. And then, that could include adjusting our time.
Right, right.
So I want to thank Lynn for bringing that up, because it is important that we be being flexible with ourselves.
Yes, thank you, Len. That was where we were going to pivot to, Len. So when it's true, when Len said that about when you reach your time, when you set the time and you reach that whatever that time frame is, it's not a time for you to feel discouraged or to give up if you don't meet your goal at that time. When you get there, it holds you accountable, right? Again, it's not just floating out in the sky, but when you get to that time that you set, then you look and you adjust accordingly, right? Whether you made it or didn't make it, you either adjust accordingly so that you continue to work to that goal, or you make adjustments, right? Even if you did make the goal, reach the goal, then you set a new one, right? So it's again, it's not necessarily a negative thing. And actually that's what I was going to pivot to. So let's use this time to ask another multiple choice question. So you guys can, like I said, put it in the chat, or you can just unmute what you think that the correct answer is. So when if you're trying to come up with a goal, right? You sit down, you say, okay, I'm gonna try to make a SMART goal. What the question is, what is the right size of the goal? And when I say the right size, meaning you don't want it to be too pie in the sky that like I said, it's not realistic or not achievable. And you also don't want it to be too easy that it really doesn't get you to your end goal, so or your overall goal. So let me just say this or give an example. If I really have a desire to speak a foreign language, right? If I really have that, again, I don't want to make it too pie in the sky that, oh, I want to learn this language so bad, I'm going to learn it and be fluent in a month. That may, be too large. But then what is too easy? Well, I really want to learn language, so I'll just, I don't know, I'll just learn one word a day. Yeah, I'll just learn one word a day. And maybe by a month, or hopefully by a month or 2 months, I'll be fluent in the language by learning one word a day. It's a little too easy, right? Anybody could do that, right? Learn one word a day. But will it, again, it may be achievable and realistic, but does it tie in with my overall goal? Does it start with my specific goal of that I want to learn a new language? I want to be able to speak a new language. And what type of time period? 20 years, 30 years? You know what I mean? So learning one word a day is like it's easy enough to attain it, but it's really not going to help me to reach my goal and experience and enjoy my goal of speaking a new language fluently anytime soon, right? One word a day. It will take, you need more than that. I'm going to just, you know what I mean? So I hope that was a good example. So what is the right size goal? And here's the question. Should I make a goal that I know? Should I set my goal in a way that I know that I will be able to achieve that goal? That's A. I'm making this goal. I'm setting the goal because the way that I know that I can achieve it. So not too big, not too small, according to what I think. What I think I can do. For B, should I make a goal? Should I set a goal that, not too big or not too small, based on what I think 50%, half of people, average person would be able to do, right? Of course, there's people who are brilliant, right? There are people who are, what's that, where they can, when they read something, they photographic memory, right? There's people that are brilliant photographic memory. Maybe they could learn a language in a month, right? But 50%, average person would be able to reach this goal. That's B. Or C, should I set a goal that I think maybe 10 or 15% of people, of the average person would be able to meet this goal? Or should I set a goal that maybe only 5%? It should be not too big, not too hard, but 5% of people should be able to meet this goal. Okay? So those are your options, A through D. A, do I set a goal that I know that I can achieve it? Do I set a goal that at least 50% of the average person should be able to achieve it? Do I set a goal C? Maybe 10, 15% of the average person should be able to achieve it, or set a goal that at least 5% of the average person, would be able to achieve it. A, B, C, or D.
I would say
A, set the goal the way
that I think I
I
can
know
achieve it.
that I think I can achieve it. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with A too.
And in chat, Stacy said A, goal setting for herself. Diamond says B. I'm not sure what B was,
B
but
is 50%, the average
50%.
person.
Okay.
Mhm.
And I think
I
I'm gonna go
say
with
A.
A.
I
Yeah,
say A as well.
Most people say A.
I was gonna go with A too. And Yanni said, I think a combination of things you can realistically commit to. So A.
Okay. Well, I could let you know that this is not my opinion, but this is what the research says. And if you'd like more information about the research, you can let me know. But research says actually we should make a goal that 10 to 15% of the average person should be able to achieve it. And to me, and this part is my opinion, that is actually more challenging than what I thought. When I found out that that's what the research is saying, when you're making SMART goals, you should set goals that the average, 10 to 15% of people should be able to meet that goal. That, to me, that sounded very challenging, right? Like, oh, you know, but the point is that your SMART goal should be challenging. It
Mm.
shouldn't be too easy. It shouldn't be, again, remember, the SMART goals are to help us to do all those things that we said at the beginning, right? To set specific goals, to take steps and actions towards that goal, to maintain that goal, like to stay with it and stay on it. And it says, in order to do those things and to actually succeed at our goal, the goal should be
What up,
challenging.
bro?
Oh my.
Our goals should be challenging. So to the extent that 10 or 15% of the people, the average person would meet that goal. So like I said, when I first learned that, I was kind of surprised. I thought that was challenging. That's not a easy, like, okay, one
Yeah.
word a day. One word a day. It's not that easy. Because if it was that easy, 99% of the people would be able to reach that goal. So just remember that when you're making your SMART goals, to make it challenging. Um, and again, in order to do that, this is where I tie in with what Lynn had shared. When we're making our goals challenging, we have to have some self-compassion.
Mm.
These goals are not set up to, like I said, it shouldn't be set up to be so easy that we achieve it just like that. So there will be and should be some difficult times, right? There'll be times where you have to kind of go back and readjust and alter your goal, and so that you can keep at it, so that you can keep working towards it, and then so we can experience success. If it's too easy and we meet the goal just like that, there's not there's not that kind of hard work and you know, uh, hard work that you have to get to feel that sense of success and achievement, right? It's too easy. So we do actually want our goals to be challenging, but we have to remember to practice self-compassion. That if you don't meet your goal in a specific way or by a specific time, that doesn't mean, like Nikki said, oh, I give up. Or we have to help ourselves not to think, oh, that means I failed. That's usually if we don't meet a goal by a certain time frame, we think failure, right? We may tend to think failure, but we need to think smarter. If we didn't and have self-compassion. If we didn't make our goal, it's not I'm a failure, it's what can I do differently? because now I'm going to reset my goal, or I'm gonna start again. What can I do differently this time so that I can reach that goal, make it, make it more achievable. Um, I'll just say one last thing about that. When I say, I like you to think about, what would you say to a friend? This is how I want you to think about yourself, is what you would say to a friend. If your friend came to you and said, "Oh, I'm such a failure. I'm a loser. I said I was going to do this, and I set a goal and I didn't get it. I'm such a loser. I just give up." What would you tell your friend? "Oh yeah, you are a loser. You're a failure. You failed. Might as well just give up." Is that what you say to your friend? Anyone would say that to their friend? No. But so often, that's how we talk to ourselves, or that's how we think about ourselves, right? So that's when I say practice self-compassion, I'm saying talk to yourself the way you would talk to your friend or loved one. Be encouraging, be motivating, you know, don't give up. Try again. Make some alterations. Do it this, try it this way. Maybe your goal was not specific enough. Maybe it wasn't measurable enough. Make the changes. Keep going, keep trying. That's the mindset that we have to have when we're practicing SMART goals. Um, Again, I'll pause. I do have just one last thing to say about self-care, but I just want to pause and give anybody an opportunity to say something if they want to.
I know I was thinking about the research,
Mhm.
and not that I'm a research person. I was like actually the least um, exciting part of becoming a social worker is the research part. But I still think, like, for me personally, I'm still attached to the A, like, make goals for yourself. But then as you were talking about it, I was like, okay, but they both can exist, right?
Mhm.
So I can make goals for myself that are specific for me, and that support, my personal goals or whatever,
Mhm.
my professional goals, my financial goals, my family goals, whatever the case may be. I can make it about me, and I can start there. Again, this is my personal opinion. I
Mhm.
can start there, but then if I factor in everything else that you said, including the 10 to 15%, to kind of force my mind to think, is that challenging enough?
Mhm.
Could I do more? Is doing more realistic? And if everybody can do it, then I don't want it. Like if I can incorporate that into my mind frame, I think it's just even more supportive of
Mhm.
developing smart goals that keep you motivated, that
Mhm.
keep you challenged, and that keep fostering that feeling of success.
Yeah.
So at first I was like, I don't know, but then, but then later on I was like, well, they could actually both be there at the same time.
Yes. Yeah. Mhm. I said this, that I thought the same thing. I was like, whoa, that's pretty steep. 10 to 15, only 10, if only 10, let's say the top 10%, if only top 10% can make it, then that might be too challenging for me. And, that was my initial, that I thought that was too steep. But again, when you apply what you just said, Nikki, and you apply about um you can alter it. You get not having that self-judgment and condemnation, right? When you add that to it, um, yes, you want to challenge yourself. And if you don't reach it, it's it's okay. It's not a failure, right? But it keep you motivated, keep you challenging yourself and reaching towards, you know, towards that. Okay, so because of time, I just want to say one last thing about self-care. Again, this ties in with the self-compassion, but also self-care. Self-care when we're making smart goals or making goals for ourselves. There are ways to take care of ourselves so that when we have goals or we're working towards goals, we don't slip into, self-judgment or condemnation or or giving up, right? And some tips to help with self-care when you're working on a goal are similar to things that you may have heard, right? Make sure even though you may have that goal, make sure you're also doing things that are nurturing, soothing, caring for yourself. And in short, I'll tell you to think about things that are pleasant to the eye, going out in nature and experiencing nature, pleasant to the smell, taking time to smell the roses, as they say, the little things like that. Um, touch, lotions, baths, showers, do things that are soothing for yourself. Because you don't want your goal to be the only thing, you want to make sure you have time to take care of yourself as well. Another way to take care of yourself when you're working with goals is to work with others, right? Just like when you maybe why they have things like people working toward a common goal. Maybe you're working towards a common goal. Maybe join up with someone and say, hey, let's do this together. Then again, you feel supported. You feel, you're not alone. You can encourage one another, right? Positively. Because like I said, maybe if you're by yourself, you might start to judge yourself, but if you're with a friend, it can be mutual, whether you encourage one another. No, don't think that way. You got this, or we got this together. Let's keep going. You're not a failure. And you do that mutually with each other. So I just wanted to remind you guys of that too. That's another way that you can kind of take care of yourself while you're working towards these goals. You not necessarily have to do it by yourself. You can take care of yourself in other ways by soothing yourself in other ways. And, again, these are the tips to help you to practice these SMART goals, stay with your SMART goals, and become successful in your SMART goals. So that's what I have for today.
That was really good. Thank you. I know it's helpful for me when making goals, especially if I wasn't taught it when I was growing up in school or whatever the case is. So the concept of goals is something that I began to get into when I was like 25 or so. And I failed at every goal that I made for myself. So it's just kind of frustrating to continue to fail at things because then you start to think that you're a failure and stuff. And having the self love and the compassion is something that's important in the taking a break because I'll be so focused on the goals that every day, all day, I'm just working towards these goals. There is no time for relaxing, and I don't schedule in time to cook, and then everything kind of gets off. So it's always nice to be reminded that like they're supposed to be a part of your life, not take over your life. And this is how it can be a part of instead of being the major focus of things.
Thank you, Diamond. That's exactly my point. Thank you. I'm glad that reached you because that's why I wanted to share it in case someone had that experience. So I'm glad, that related to you. Oh, you're muted, Kier.
Also, remove the word failure. It's not a failure.
Yeah.
It's just an interruption in the process.
Mm-hmm. Or a readjustment, an adaptation.
Because when you say failure, that's more of a self-mentally abusive kind of term. Like, I failed again. Nah, you hit a spot where things got a little bit out of control. You may need to rearrange, but it is still the goal is still there to be achieved.
Yep, I get to try again.
Yeah,
And now I have more data. I have different information.
You've got experience because you've made it to a point. So reevaluate where you've gone, how far you've gotten, and adjust what you need to do to continue.
And chat. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kier.
And for me, I felt like, as far as the percentages goes, the challenge and the gratifying part would be to make sure that I achieve within that 10 to 15% of population, because everything else to me is average, and my competitive side of me would want more. So, although I set my goals according to what's realistic to me, I do think it's good to be aware of what population can achieve and by comparison, so that I have a scale to go by for myself.
That's a
So
very good
thank you,
point.
Brandi.
I like that.
Thank you, Brandi.
No, no problem. That was a very good point. Yeah. Because we're all different. Like he said, he's
Mhm.
more of a
Like,
competitive
I'm gonna be
nature.
mad.
So, mhm.
Yeah, I'd be mad to be like, oh, you finished with the other 50%. No, I want to finish with the first. I'm in that 10 to 15 population or that 5%. That's where the goal is, because as far as I'm concerned, well, at least with the 50% or the 10 to 15%, you understand there is still another level to get to. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I'm going to competitively go after what I'm looking for. My goal wise. Sorry, my work.
In chat, Larry said, great combo and failure equals lesson.
Definitely. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. I don't know if we have time just to show the other screen that I wanted to show. These people can write it down on their paper.
We do. Our Wednesday meetings are typically an hour, but we do give an hour and a half for our Saturday session. So understandably, if some of you guys have to drop off because it's a little longer than it normally is, that's 100% fine. But if you want to stay and work through like a worksheet with Brandi that gives us an example of working out a SMART goal, that's what we're going to do next. So if you have to leave, thank you so much for coming. If you're able to stay, we welcome you to stay, and kind of the pencil and paper that we talked about earlier was for this moment where you can, write down your goal and see if you can start just get started thinking. It doesn't have to be perfected, right? Make a template of that goal based on what we've been talking about today.
Go ahead and share my screen again for those who can stay.
And Brandi, but when you get the screen up there, I found something that I thought would give a good overview example of each one and how you can determine if something is specific or not specific or measurable, if you don't mind me sharing that.
You want to
No,
share
I'm not
that?
going to share my screen. I'm just going to say it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this is going along the lines of you talking about the physical fitness or the lose weight goal. So examples of your goal not being smart and being smart could go like this. So specific, you would say, I will get fit. But if you cross out get fit and put I will run, that's being specific, right? For measurable, so you say I will run more often is not measurable. But if you say I will run twice a week, there's our measurable piece, right? So now we're at I will run twice a week for at least 50 miles. That's a lot for us to come out the gate doing. So if we were to adjust that to I will run twice a week for at least 2 miles, might be a little bit more achievable, especially if we're not runners and we're just starting out, right? So now we're at relevance. I will run twice a week for at least 2 miles so I can finish a marathon by the end of 2025. And so, not finish a marathon one day, right? Because that's not specific. It doesn't give us a time frame that challenges us, right? But if we say I will run twice a week for at least 2 miles so I can finish a marathon by the end of 2025, that meets all of those criteria, and even gives us space to, get, build up our skills, be flexible with that goal. What do you call it? Adjust and adapt and look back and reflect and see how we're going and measure our data and things like that. So that's an example of a good SMART goal that gives us an end game with enough time for us to achieve it and make it relevant and make it measurable. So hopefully that helps, not just with the exercise that we're about to do, but like when you're starting to make your goals, within the new year.
That was perfect. That was basically the worksheet.
When I saw it, I was like, ooh, that helps.
Perfect. That was perfect. So everybody can see this. So I mean, we could do this a certain way. We could basically do what Nikki just did. We set a goal about losing weight and then, fill it in and make it specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, or time bound. Or if any one of you would like to share, their an initial goal, like to say something that is kind of maybe general, not, and you want us to all work together. We can all work together and fill in this chart, this worksheet together and fill in. Okay, if that's the overall goal, right? It says here the overall goal that you have in mind. How can we make it a little bit more specific? And we could share together, fill it in, how we can make it a little bit more measurable, and and so forth. Go through the acronyms together. Does anybody have an initial goal that they want to share, and we try to work it out together?
Come
Well,
on, don't be shy.
I've got one. So I want to write half of a business plan for the nonprofit that I want to start by, well, I already started a little bit, but by December, like the end of the year.
Okay. So this is our initial general goal. I want to have a business plan for my nonprofit. That's excellent. Thank you. It's a desire. It's like out there, but now how do I bring it into reality, right? How do I bring it? That's it. But how do I, bring it into fruition, as they say? So how can we make it a little bit more specific? Why it says you want to have a business plan? What exactly do you want to accomplish by having a, see, these other things you could think about when you're trying to make it specific. Who needs to be included? When do you want to do this? Why is this your goal? How can we make it a little bit more specific? What do you want to accomplish by having a business plan?
I guess just some guidance so that I don't have to like think of every step every month. It's kind of just laid out for me, like pre-planned work, I guess.
How much research have you applied already?
What happened?
How much research have you applied?
I have a book, and I think I read like 2 chapters of that book, and that's it so far.
Um,
Well, no, I have had practice writing or doing those 2 chapters for a different time. Like I started writing a business plan or practicing writing a business plan, but I got to chapter 2 and then I went to college. So that was like 4 years ago.
okay. Is it possible you might need an updated book with a fresh perspective versus something that you had 4 years ago that you didn't, that you put aside?
This is possible. Yeah, that sounds smart.
Because something in the book, because whether the book was informative or not, it didn't hold enough interest for you to finish it. So that's to be considered if you want to move forward. Maybe part of the preparation is to find new sources of material on the subject.
Yeah, that's an option. I was also doing this thing with someone, and so
Mm-hmm.
me and him were not able to do it at the same time. So I kind of
Mm-hmm.
stopped to wait. So I think the next time I would just do it for myself. That's why I want to do it for the nonprofit, because the nonprofit is me. There's nobody else included in it that I would have to pause for.
That makes sense because nobody can be more passionate about what you care about than you.
Who needs to be included? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, what do you guys think about this goal being more specific in that obtaining a new book or new resources on business planning? What do you guys think
That will
as a
help
more
me.
specific goal?
You
And I
know,
like I like the resources part because it opens it up to basically gather those resources, right? So those resources could be books, those resources could be podcasts, those resources could be talking to other people who have nonprofits that could give you that information. Um, just seeing what's out there to get um, the current relevant tools to creating a business plan. So definitely this could be, the overall goal, the umbrella goal, as it's sometimes called. is to develop my business plan. So if we were to make this particular goal that we're working on an action step, to be specific about this action step, this action goal would be, okay, let me gather these resources and start getting that information so I know what to do next. So I like it.
I like that as well because that's a. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, it's
Well,
your game.
it's
Oh,
good.
that's one of the things that I have a challenge with when I write goals. I write them very vaguely, like the initial goal, and then I kind of don't do them because I don't know where to start. So I
Mhm.
like having that first step of, okay, this is where I go to start this thing off. Yeah.
So,
And I think Nikki touched on a good part because we are in a digital age. It's not necessary to just consume books. You can go to a podcast. You can go on YouTube. You can ask the questions and look at other people's opinions because it's oodles and oodles of information out there. That and sometimes some people are more of an auditory person as opposed to a reading type. So
And I would be
have
remiss if with Lynn if I didn't mention Chat GPT as a new and emerging way for us to access information and to get a template, of what certain things or what the components are in certain things. So I think resources is a good word to use in that space and a good goal, a good specific goal. And I think it's going to be very helpful as we move down to be able to see how that develops. I'm thinking ahead, but go ahead, Brandi, how that develops with the
yeah,
measurable and the achievable.
well, yeah, I would like to write in what you guys already shared because you said it's as we're at specific and we want to continue to narrow it down and to make it even more specific and measurable, you guys had suggested that Diamond reach out to certain people or certain you know, certain tools where she could get this and these new resources. So that can be the measurable goals. How can I measure the progress? If I say, yeah, I'm going to obtain these resources, again, what's my next step then? What do I actually do? So contact or download or, visit certain websites. Those are the things that we could put here as measurable because once you either contact that person or download that app and, you know, or visit that website, that's the action towards obtaining, right? You want to obtain it. How?
So are we
Right?
going to fill that in now? Is that what we're
Yeah.
okay?
So what were some of
So
those suggestions that were given? I could fill it in.
I would do probably like talk to two people who have a nonprofit or a business plan, see what their experiences are like, and but talk to two people. Find one new book because I do like books for learning, so I still want a book, but I don't need like 80 books because I know how fast I read. So one book would be
Okay.
good.
Is that what you have this knowledge?
Hmm.
And I guess for like the auditory, because I can listen to things quicker than I can read things at this point in my life, it would be like find for maybe videos or podcasts or something that I can listen to for auditory resources, just to not.
So you said one or two?
She said 4.
Oh, four.
Because I
Okay.
can listen faster than I can read. Like I can read a book that's an audio book. I can read more audio books than read an actual book. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
yes,
definitely.
yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I heard two people, one pod no, two people, what did you say? One book and
Oh,
One,
4 podcasts.
yes. For auditory. What is it? Visual. Aud-
Audiobooks.
yeah.
Audiobook.
Somethings.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Open up an audiobook account.
I have one. Yay. So that works.
All right.
okay. So that we have three measurable goals here. Did we say talk to at least two people, obtain at least one book and download um 4 audiobooks or podcasts? Did we give a time? Maybe we can kind of go into achievable here. Um, let's make sure it's achievable it's reasonable. How much time do you think you need to kind of meet these goals?
Ooh, this is going immeasurable or
Yeah,
achievable?
well, a little bit of both. You want to make sure it's achievable. So you want to consider achievable when you're setting that time.
So, 2 people, 1 book, 4 podcasts/book/whatever. For audio stuff. I would, uh, and this is
Sounds
where
about
I
Just to
right.
obtain it, just to obtain it. Doesn't mean you have to complete reading it, right? Right.
to obtain it. The
Mhm.
original goal was December, but I think that's too lenient for me. I think that I think that's being easy on myself. So if I had to be a little harder, I would go by August because then I'll have summer break finished by that point. And if I can't do it over summer break, then I just really wasn't trying.
So about 6 months.
Yeah.
And I like the way you factored in, okay, I'm going to have a break, because that kind of goes into the questions that are underachievable when it says, what is the amount of time that's required for this, and do you have enough? When Brandi was talking about, do you have enough time realistically? If it doesn't mean that you're not going to sleep, right? Or if it doesn't mean, that you'll have to work, even on your weekends. So the fact that you're like, yeah, I'm going to have a little bit more time, so I can start off doing a little bit, and then I can increase it when summer break gets here, I think is helpful under the achievable part, or I guess assessing whether it's achievable.
Okay. Yeah.
And also, the 2 people that you mentioned, are they people that you have access to? You can come to, we can easily access, yes, because you have more time. Yes, because you have access to the audiobooks, to books and audio books. But what about those people? You have access to them. Do you know who you would contact?
Yes, I think I do.
Or is it a new relationship that you would have to build? Like that could be part of the questions.
I know that I will have contact for at least one person. But the other person, I think I would have to look and like search for and build a relationship or something of that nature.
Maybe this goal can be, this is how you can go back, right? As you're considering if it's achievable, you can go back and alter this to at least one person. And if you happen to get to the 2, then great, it's a bonus, right? But you're making it more achievable that you say at least one person you'll be able, because you already have that contact. And if you happen to have time or the opportunity, remember we talked about achievable means, or actually, um, we we talked about the means, right? Having the means or the access to a second
Mhm.
person. Um, you're not quite sure yet. So that's how you can adjust your goals to make it more achievable, more realistic, right? So let's adjust it to one person, at least one person, and then if you get 2, great.
And if you get 3, Yahtzee.
This is a
So
perfect
is it
example of achievable when you consider, do I have the means, right?
is um is it still measurable if you do like the range thing? So if I do like 1 to 2 people or 1 to whatever people, is that still a thing? Or
Yes,
should I just do the one and then
I think it's fine because even the at least is still like 1 to 2. I could, if I erase the least, I could put 1 to 2. So either way, it's
okay.
fine.
And I'm gonna do you a difference. It could sound like this. I'm gonna talk to some people who know something about business, read a couple books, and try to listen to some podcasts. None of
Mhm.
that was measurable at all. And so, like Brandi said, any of those numbers that you're throwing in there, a range of at least one, that's going to be helpful in making it measurable because it's something that you can track,
Hmm.
right, and go back and adjust as needed.
Okay.
And so let's move on to relevant. Um, why am I setting this goal now? Again, why is it personal? Because we kind of did realistic, so maybe this time we'll practice relevant. Why am I setting this goal now? What does it mean to you? Is it meaningful to you? Those kind of questions. The timing, like Nikki had mentioned, is this the right time for this goal, to set this goal? How would you answer those questions, those type of questions? If you reflect.
So, why I'm setting the goal now is because, well, I've always wanted, not always, but I've wanted a nonprofit for a while now. And the skills that are related to my nonprofit, I'm starting to put into practice. So, like gardening and farming, stuff like that, the things related to it, I'm starting to practice in my life so that I can have that knowledge developed already. And I'm not in a place to where I can legitimately start it, like the programs and things, but what I can do is the research surrounding starting it. So when I get to that part in my life, I'll already have that written down, and then when I start putting, footsteps on the ground, like going to maybe investors or trying to find grants or things of that nature, all of that paperwork is already handled, and I can talk about what I'm doing, and share that with people without having to workshop what it is that what my nonprofit is. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah, it sounds like you'll be ready to give an elevator speech.
Yes.
When someone's like, what is it about? You're going to already have the information to
Yes.
present your ideas and your proposal.
Yes.
Sounds great to me.
Excellent to me.
Which I'd like to say that listening to Diamond's example and how she explains it, it now makes more sense to what the doctor said, as Dr. Brandi stated, as far as that putting yourself in that 10%. Being being a little bit more aggressive, even though I know the question was asked and we kind of leveled it to say, yes, it's for self. Yes, it is for self for Diamond, but just kind of hearing everyone give their input in helping her to jumpstart her goal and hearing her response. For me, it says, okay, you've put yourself in that 10%, even though out of the entire group today, majority said A, she said B.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I agree. Thank you for pointing it out, Stacy.
Mm-hmm. So lastly, here we have the T for time bound. So we mentioned 6 months. Was that deadline realistic? Before we put it in, do you feel like any hindrance to be able to meet this goal, to talk to you know one person, at least one person, obtain at least one book, and to read through listen to 4 audiobooks or podcasts. um you have the time, you have a break coming up, you have access to audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
It's relevant to your goals, your personal goals and values of, and you've already started to put this in place in your personal life. You said it with your gardening and things like that. So relevant, keeps you motivated. It aligns with your goals and values. How do we feel now about the 6 months deadline to um to be a good end date to to see where you are? Is 6 months a good end date? Does it feel reasonable, realistic?
I feel confident in it because I'm not saying I have to have read and sorted through and took notes and on all of these things. The goal isn't what my goal would have been if I made this by myself. It's to finish doing that stuff in 6 months. It's to get everything in one place so that I can do the next step in 6 months. So it's not as constrictive and time consuming as it would have been if I would have done it by myself, because I would have said to do it all in 6 months.
And I
look
think,
here.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brandi.
I was just going to say, here's your review. You could kind of rephrase now that you just said that, Diamond, you can rephrase or rewrite your SMART goal, right? So you said, I just heard you say, I'm paraphrasing, but basically you realizing that just to get all of these steps in place, gathering all of these resources, feels like a SMART goal to you. Not
Yes.
necessarily that you have read every book and completed every, interview with everyone, and you know what I mean? You've made these contacts.
Yes.
And like lining up your ducks.
Right.
How about so we went from have a business plan and obtain books and resources for a business plan to how can we rewrite that or rephrase it? In 6 months' time,
Have collected a total of, what was it, 4, 5, 6, 7, at least 7 resources to learn about creating a business plan for nonprofits.
And I would even
awesome.
add and connected. That is awesome. I really like that. I like the way it came together. But I would say maybe the 6 resources and made one connection, like made one personal connection with the person within, with experience.
Okay.
And I use the word connection intentionally. Like, I didn't necessarily meet with them. That could be part of it, but I spoke with them. I told them I was interested. We can maybe set a date in the future for us to sit down and talk about it. But I did reach out, express to them what I was doing and what I would like them to share with me. I made that connection at the very least.
So it's not even just that we sat down, interviewed, talked it out, but I've opened up that door.
It doesn't have to be. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. And keep in mind, we're going to have more than one SMART goal at a time, right? And
Right.
these are the action steps. So they don't have to be big and grand. They can be small but measurable. So even if it's a small step, even if it's making connection, it can be that is an action step. You're one step closer to your goal, right? So then you can develop another SMART goal once that could be just related to that connection with that person. I'm going to meet with that person within the next 2 weeks, and we're going to sit down and talk about this, that. That could be another goal that you set for yourself.
And so, question, in the setting of the multiple goals, just to keep it easy, even if I was to stay within this one, am I finishing this goal before I make another goal, or am I making like a little army of goals for this? Like, you know what I mean? How's that work? Because this is extensive, so you got to sit down and do every one of these.
Can I
Brandi?
respond? This is where the self-care and self-awareness comes in. You said just now, this is intensive, right? This is intensive. So if this one goal yours feels intensive to you, you need to be able to take care of that. That's what the self-care is. You need to be able to take care of that so that you don't feel overwhelmed or intense. So what that is telling me based on what you shared is one goal for now, and not to forget my self-care and setting time apart for myself to be refreshed and relax. And if and when I'm ready to add another goal, I will do so when I sense that it's not overwhelming or intense to do so.
One goal in this area of my life, in the business area of my life, right? But I can make goals for the other areas of my life, like finances, a relationship, or spiritual.
Yeah, most definitely. You can make as many goals as you feel that you're able to um, pursue without being overwhelmed. I think it's what Brandy's saying. If you make goals and you look at them and you go, I don't know how in the world I'm going to do this. That's already a good indication that that's too many goals at one time.
Well, what if you just broke it down? Like if you go back and address the time restraints of it, I mean, yeah, okay, so this is something that you wanna have all these things completed so that you can make that move in 6 months. But maybe you need to make it a little more easier on yourself, like dedicating maybe 15 hours, 10 to 15 hours a week towards that goal. so that you're not overwhelming yourself. That's basically like 2 to 3 hours of your own free time.
Mm-hmm.
So that you're not doing it. And also on the reaching out to people, remember we are digital, so you don't necessarily have to physically meet someone. You can still set up a correspondence and have that dialogue going in the midst of with the other things that you're doing. So because some people, everybody's schedule isn't the same, but we all can read emails and respond. We all can read messages and respond. And those things do make things a little easier and less time consuming.
Right. Okay.
And then I also, just to play devil's advocate, I also have to throw out there what Brandi was talking about earlier when she was talking about the goals being challenging. So
Mm-hmm.
is it challenging for you, or does it feel overwhelming to you because it's new? Is it feel overwhelming because it's a little scary? Like I don't know, I do very well with reaching out and talk to people, and so, or is it because maybe I need to look back and see, is it achievable based on everything else I have to do in my daily functioning? So
Right.
if it's just like, oh, that feels like a lot because I've never done it before, that will call for reflection, right? So it's like, okay, does it just feel like a lot because it's new, or I'm scared, or is it feel like a lot because I work 2 jobs and have 2 kids, and I'm doing all of that? So it's still all part of the reflecting that you would do when you're writing them down, while you're remembering, or I'm sorry, not writing them down necessarily, but developing them while remembering, okay, I also want to challenge myself. I want to be in that 10-15%, um, you know, because that adds to our confidence, building up our confidence, and acknowledging our ability to take on difficult tasks.
Right. Okay. Last thing, can I get the worksheet that you like, the empty worksheet? I mean, I'll take
Oh
that.
no, my sister,
It's
you
my
got to get your own.
ew.
I'm just playing. Lynn sends out the resources for anyone that wants them. If you have not given your email to Lynn before, please drop it in the chat, and you'll be able to get both documents.
Okay, I'm a part of it, so hee hee. Thank you
And so
guys.
I'm gonna. Oh, go ahead, Lynn. I'm sorry.
That wasn't me. I'm not sure who was speaking, but it wasn't me.
Oh, I
Oh,
said this is
okay.
awesome. Thank you.
Oh, okay. No, thank you guys. I'm gonna wrap up because we are a little over time, and I know everyone has a lot of busy things to do for their Saturday. I want to thank you guys for joining us for our first monthly meeting. We hope it was helpful. As I said, if Lynn does not have your email, please drop it in the chat. We'll make sure that you get those 2 documents. I want to thank Brandi Perusomala for joining us today, and giving us such informative information to help us with developing our personal successes into the new year.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much.
Brandi.
Thank you, everyone.
Peace out, everybody.
Everyone have a great Saturday.
Thank you. Well,
It was about to turn into a whole session. Like, all right, so this is what you're gonna do first. Look, we're gonna get this. Look,